Welcome to Live Ball with Paige Dower, presented by Harper Volkswagen.
Yeah, you'll turn me down a little bit. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Can you hear me good?
Yes. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2.
1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2.
Okay, I'm gonna switch ears because I like it when the mic's not directly in front of my face. Yeah. So you feel like you can see me.
Test 1, 2.
Mhm.
Good.
Yep. You, actually turn him down a little bit too, or just on me, I guess. You sound fine. I feel like I am loud in my ears.
Test 1, 2.
Okay. 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay, now I'm off.
You good?
Now I'm off.
Okay.
1, 2. Okay, now I'm back. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2.
You good?
Yeah, that'll be fine.
Cool.
And then, do we want to test the lighting? Do you want Chris over here so we can test the lighting?
Yeah, if you don't mind.
Jordan? Steve? Hey, Steve. Sometimes I feel like I'm screaming. Hey, Chris. Can you come here real quick? No. We want to test the lighting. Hi. Yeah, I do actually. It's a lot more spacious than I thought it was going to be. Good afternoon. It's Live Ball Full Disclosure. We're so happy to be back at Harper Volkswagen. Yep. That's how I get all my views. Looks good? If you want. At Full Disclosure Pro. Stop it, Connor. I literally said TK didn't do this to us. That's true. I'm gonna tell him to set up. It's ridiculous. No, sure you did. And I don't thank you. I was like, you did such a good job. No. The Porsche dealership's looking nice. Yeah, I hadn't seen it with like the walls up yet. Yeah. What are you mumbling about? There are a lot of roads. Landmarks. I do. I kind of thought Kristen was.
Donald just Steve's trying to go by landmarks. That's all I know. He says, look up if you see a sign to stop there.
I think. Can we have somebody else come on from Harper? That's ridiculous.
Welcome to Live Ball with Paige Dower, presented by Harper Volkswagen.
Good afternoon. It's Live Ball on Full Disclosure. It's so good to have you guys here and welcome into Harper Volkswagen, where we're joined by VFL Duron Mayman. It's so good to have you. We had so much fun during the football season that we had to come back for season 2, and we're so happy to have you a part of the show this season.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to come and talk to your audience and add value to the show.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, you were a Tennessee forward a couple of seasons there. In fact, I was looking back at your senior season, 300 rebounds in your senior season. I think that puts you 12th most all time in program history. How much did you value that aspect of your game?
It's really more so just about tracking the ball, being prepared for where the rebound may go. It's just having, taking time with game film and really trying to study angles. It's mostly about that.
Yeah, and you can see how much of a difference that makes in some of these games for Tennessee, especially the last handful of seasons and in this matchup against Florida, which we're going to be talking all about today. It's Tennessee and Florida on Saturday, and if we know anything from the trio of matchups last season, it's bound to be entertaining. So let's go back to last season, in fact, and maybe look at that SEC title game. Both of those teams entering that matchup 1-1 against each other, both really lopsided matchups heading into that game, and it came down to points in the paint, rebounding, and second chance effort. How much of that do you think might play a role in this game this season?
I think it's going to play a big role because when you think about the lopsided, win that Florida had over us, it was really defeating. We couldn't really get much of anything going in that game, and I think with this time around, if we can kind of set the tone early, especially when you're down there in Gatorville, you have to throw the first punch. And I think that's something that we're going to do because we've been known to start early and then the second half is kind of a toss-up. But I think I'm excited to see what we can put together tomorrow.
And even though there's some conversation about Florida maybe being a little bit more down this season than in seasons past, it's tough to go on the road in the SEC. In fact, Tennessee is 26-38 on the road in Gainesville, so much more lopsided than the series history puts it, where Tennessee leads 82-61 all time. What makes it so difficult to go down to Gainesville and get a win there?
I think when you're playing on the road in general, it's already tough. It's a psychological battle because you're going into someone else's arena that has more of like a piece of calm and they have the advantage. And I think when you go in there as an athlete, you kind of have to put yourself in the shoes of someone who's back against a wall. And I think that's the way you have to play on the road, but you have to do it together. And I think if we can have all 5 guys show up and play for the University of Tennessee, I think we'll have a good shot.
And I think one of the big questions for this matchup on Saturday is, can Tennessee go on the road and win one, especially if it gets close late? We saw how they started their SEC slate, not able to win one against Arkansas, even though they had the lead in the final minutes, and it kind of evaded them or escaped them at the end. Do you think this might be a game that comes down to the wire, or what's on the line for Tennessee in this matchup?
Yeah, I think we have enough to go down there and get the win convincingly. I don't think it's going to kind of go down to the wire. I think we're either going to show up and we're going to prove to the SEC that we are someone that can be consistent night in and night out, because I think we have guys that have shown that they can show up. We just need to see it in the thick of the SEC play, and I'm excited to see what we present tomorrow.
And what Tennessee's been able to do up into the season, 1-1 in conference play, a couple of solid Power 4 wins or Power 5 wins to start the season.
Yeah.
You now are starting to kind of figure out who you are. You're getting into the first couple of weeks of January. When you look at the season so far, what impresses you most about this new version of Rick Barnes' team?
I would say the ability to watch this group and realize that they really are close, not only on the court, but you can tell that they have relationships off the court, because I've never seen a group of athletes that shows positive body language through the whole game. Like, this team shows positive body language throughout the whole game, and it's really impressive when they get down to see how they can rally, because I've seen that, and I'm interested to see how we can continue to do that night in and night out.
And I think it's really nice, too, because, like you mentioned, there's so many new guys, one of those, of course, being Jacoby Gillespie. And I think, for me, if we talk about what's maybe impressed me up until this point has been Jacoby Gillespie these last couple of games, specifically against Texas, where he absolutely came alive. Even when at times he felt like the only option on offense, he was still able to either, drive through traffic, attack the rim, and kind of score at all three levels, which Tennessee desperately needs.
Yeah, I love Jacoby's game. He has that general aura when he presents himself, especially when we start to get into that pick and roll play. But it's going to be very interesting to see how we start the game, because I think if he can come out and, like I said, set the tone at the guard level, and then we have our bigs who's been doing an awesome job, especially controlling the paint. If we can control the tone of the game early in the possessions by only limiting Florida to one shot, and we can kind of get multiple possessions, maybe off a miss and get a putback, I think we have a really good opportunity to come out there with a win.
Yeah, and that'll get to our keys to the game in just a moment. But, on the flip side of where Tennessee may be starting to lean into its identity and it's starting to form, I think there are still maybe a couple of areas within this Tennessee basketball team that they've not yet been able to kick yet. You've not been able to kick old habits. What's maybe catching your attention that's maybe holding this team back a little bit?
I mean, obviously, when you look at the offensive play, you wish some guys would be more dominant in certain areas. We could use a little bit more consistent scoring from the guard area, and obviously the bigs. It really just depends on what's the game plan. Are we trying to attack in the paint, or are we going to use most of our bigs as slashers and obviously rebounders for putbacks? I think it's going to be interesting to see if we can limit the turnovers, right? And I think there are multiple levels of turnovers. There's the live ball turnovers, which are the biggest that kills us. And sometimes it's just momentum, momentum that's killed when those turnovers happen.
And actually, that's kind of one of the areas I was most concerned about, too. And, I think a lot of us saw in practice when Rick Barnes had the red and black balloons on the scorer's table. What was your reaction when you saw that, actually?
Well, I think sometimes you try to draw attention to what you're emphasizing in practice, because obviously if you work on limiting turnovers in practice, in the game it should become easier, right? Because I think the level of intensity in practice is always more intense than what the game actually presents. And so I think Rick Barnes definitely, does a good job of drawing attention to what they're trying to be accountable for.
And I would say it's kind of gone a long way, too. I think little by little, the turnovers are coming down just a little bit. And now I think it's the type of turnovers that he's really honing in on. And I could even pick it up on the last couple of practices where it's those bad pass turnovers. And we saw a number of those against Texas. What is that? Maybe is that because they're still trying to find their identity, like you mentioned, or what contributes to those bad pass turnovers?
I think it's a number of factors, but then again, you have to go back to there's only one returning starter to this group, and I think they're still getting used to each other. And I draw attention to the minutes that these groups are playing together. There's not a lot of consecutive minutes that this group is playing together. I think Rick Barnes is finding a lot of different lineups that may work for a lot of different schemes, because then again, the SEC is a gauntlet, and you're going to face a lot of different schemes against the other coaches. So you have to find a group that maybe plays well defensively or maybe plays well offensively. But then again, you have to find the right group that you want to finish the game with. So I think Rick Barnes is probably still testing the waters. Go back and I was watching some of the other film on some of these other guys. There's one particular player. Is it Abrams? It may be Abrams. I really like his game. I would love to see
freshman?
him get. I would love to see him get a little bit more minutes. And obviously, Carey, who's everybody's favorite. Who there's a inside joke that Sterling Pearl has. He says he's my little brother, which I can see the resemblance. But he's huge, and I think he's going to be a big impact player for us long term. So I'm hopeful that he can, show up tomorrow and help Tennessee get the win.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's a good segue. We'll head to a quick commercial break, and when we come back, it's all about the keys to the game for Tennessee and a hopeful road win for the Volunteers. We'll be right back.
I'm VFL Chris Brown. Experience the VW brand proudly being produced in the great state of Tennessee. Harper Volkswagen is a proud partner of Tennessee Athletics. Go Vols!
Here we are back at Nick and Jay's Cafe, Thursday afternoon. I got a Reuben here with sweet potato fries. Got a nice cheeseburger with no Pepsi. Got a club sandwich with cabbage, tuna salad melt. I got a meatloaf with somebody loves green peas. Come down and see us here at Nick and Jay's Cafe, 1526 Lovell Road. Love to have you, love to see you.
Welcome to Live Ball with Paige Dower, presented by Harper Volkswagen.
All right, welcome back into Live Ball. Deron Mayman and BFL Chris Brown, who is the sales manager here at Harper Volkswagen. It's a big matchup, guys, coming on Saturday, Tennessee and Florida. What are your maybe instant, keys to the game when you look at this matchup? Like, what are you most looking forward to? We'll start with you, Chris.
I get excited when you see this game, Deron. You've been in these moments playing in these away games, whether it's football, whether it's basketball, you kind of want to bring your game. What I'm looking forward to is kind of our big guys that play like you, the Carries, the Estrelas, the Felix Okpara. How are we going to handle the paint? How do we control that paint against Florida? Obviously, they rebound the ball extremely well, and that's something that we need to make sure we do to kind of control the game.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how some of the guys come together, because when you're on the road, there's going to be times and moments in that game where it's going to get loud. It's going to get rocky, and some of the plays that you call may not work. You're going to have to figure out another strategy, right? And I think a lot of the value that comes from playing on the road is you deepen those relationships when you go through these battles and you're able to pull out a strong win. So I'm interested to see how this group is able to galvanize and come out with a win tomorrow.
Yeah, Deron, I was actually looking at last year's matchup in the SEC title game, and Chris, you mentioned the paint points. Well, Florida dominated in the paint in their last meeting. I think it was to the tune of 32-20 in the paint point differential or total. Then you can go to the Texas game just the other day for Tennessee. What was it, like 24 some paint points? I think it was a season high. So how much are you liking how this team is evolving in their physicality to get into the paint and have success there?
In my experience playing basketball, and you can speak to this a lot more, when you go inside out, it kind of works better, right? Like you want to dump that ball in, especially when you got some big guys that can kind of finish at the rim and you got guys that can get offensive rebounds. That kind of opens everything up. I think we still need to work on our kind of mid-range game as well. I think that's something where we can take another step. But when you throw the ball inside early and you're getting and ones, you're getting fouls, you're getting them in foul trouble, they kind of have to change their strategy. And I think that's kind of when you can pass the ball out and kind of get going.
Yeah, you always want to dictate the pace or the way the game goes, and that usually happens, like you said, Chris, from the inside out. Especially when you throw the ball into your big guys and you see that they're getting confidence by able to get small, touches around the rim. Maybe it's a miss and a putback, or maybe it's an and one, and now you see your big fella wake up and now he's running a little harder. I mean, because obviously that's what I used to do.
Yeah, exactly.
So it kind of just leads into the fact where you're slowing the game down. You maybe getting to the foul line a little bit more, and then now you're able to see the formula for what you try to work on all week actually presented on the floor.
And what would you say maybe is your key to this game and a hopeful Tennessee road win?
I would say we're going to have to really rely on team rebounding, because it's not just going to be the bigs, because the bigs may be occupied by, not even just a full block out, but they may be in a full front block, and then the guards have to rebound down, so that way we can get out in transition. And I think getting to the rebounds first, whether it's, defensively we only eliminate them in one shot, or we get multiple shots, and then obviously getting out in transition early.
How difficult is it to get those out-of-area rebounds, especially when you're going up against a Florida team that has some nice size as well?
I go back to what I said earlier. It's all about, being ready before the shot goes up, anticipating, and then obviously the biggest thing is you lay in the first hit. That's the biggest key in rebounding. If you get hit first, you are at a disadvantage.
We were just talking over there about a game you had back in the day when you went for 32 and 20 over in Maui, right? And it's like, I kind of likened you to kind of like the Charles Barkley, kind of the round mound rebound that can go and rebound the ball and get your own shot off of those rebounds, right? What goes into that mentality, right, of you got a lot of dudes that are 6'11", 7 foot that you're guarding, that you're able to kind of push them out. But how do you box those guys out to make sure? Is it a team thing, or is it an individual thing, or is it just a mentality?
I think it's a combination of not footwork, but feet work, right? It's a little bit different, because you have to be able to have the battle of the feet, because that's where the leverage starts, because most of the time people think it's who can jump the highest. No, it's really about who's most prepared.
Leverage.
Yeah, it's the leverage that you present first, because you can be bigger, but if I have my feet, I win that battle. Just like in boxing, if you win the battle of the feet, technically you're probably gonna have a better advantage of winning the war. And I think that's the way I always approach it.
Well, and Chris, you also played at Tennessee. You're a former tight end, so you're used to setting all sorts of blocks and
Yes,
taking contact.
I literally liken myself to you in the sense of you were an undersized big man, right? Tight ends usually are 6'6". They're usually yours like this is the
They said I should have
prototypical.
played football, but
You,
who knows?
you should have came on over, but like that's the thing, right? Is the mentality, right? Like I was a smaller tight end. You have to be able to cut somebody. I had to know how to position myself to where I can block somebody that was a lot bigger than me just off of leverage alone. And another thing I think is important is film study, right? Like when you're undersized like us, you got to show up a little bit early. You got to watch a little bit more film. You have to be able to know, okay, this dude, when he takes this right step, I know he's going that way, and more than likely this is going to happen. So you kind of just digress, and you're able to break things down more simpler when you have a disadvantage that you have to overcome with someone that's bigger.
Yeah, man. And it's also, the game slows down when you're ready and you do your film and you're prepared, you know the scout, right? And then again, you have the calm within yourself that you know you're going to show up and be able to, present the God-given abilities that that he has blessed you with. And I think it's when you can see the game before it actually happens, people don't realize that it really
it's a powerful thing.
It's so powerful. Yeah.
Well, earlier you guys both mentioned kind of being undersized in your positions, and that could also be said for Jalen Carey. I mean, he's 6'8", but what he lacks maybe in height, he certainly makes up for in strength. I think he will be a huge key to the game for Tennessee to walk away with a win, mostly because of what he's been able to provide Tennessee off the bench, averaging more than 20 minutes a game. I think in his last, 7 or so outings, he's better than 50% from the field. So I just think whether it's the rebounding or it's the efficiency in the paint, like he could be key if he can continue to come on the way he has.
Yeah, I mean, he's been coming off the bench and playing around 15 to 17 minutes, which is interesting. And hopefully he starts to, play a little bit more, especially in the second half, because I think the more he touches the ball, good things happen.
Yeah.
Whether it's he's catching it and then he's looking for the cutter, or he's finding the open man on the opposite side of the wing, or he's actually going to work. I've been liking what I'm seeing from him.
Do you think it's a buildup of stamina for him, of getting him more going and going and going? Because obviously, you heard Coach Barnes say a couple weeks, this guy can be whatever he wants to be, right?
Yeah.
And you saw the comments that he put out. As a player like him, when you're coming in and you're transferring, you're trying to figure out the system, you're trying to figure out if you're starting, if you're not starting, do you think that kind of plays into effect how much he's been playing? Because you see, when he's in the game, they're running sets for him, and they're trying to get him the ball.
Yeah. I mean, every scenario that you just mentioned, I was in, So, I know exactly how he should be feeling, but I can't say exactly. But I think for Jalen, I think it may just be conditioning. I don't know if he needs to get his body in shape, or if he's coming off an injury, or there may be something that we just don't know about that he's dealing with. But if he can get his conditioning where he can play a full 40 minutes, that's where things start to get scary. Because I think if he's not tired, he shouldn't be out the game.
Funny story, when I played ball down in Miami, Paige, I never told you this. I played with his dad. His dad was an offensive lineman for the Dolphins when I played. And, it's just you play stuff back. You remember seeing this little kid. He was he was bigger than everybody else. But like you said with the conditioning, I think, man, that is key, right? Especially when it's coming down late in the game when it comes to free throws and you're getting fouled. Because they're not going to let him just take the ball, back him down, do a drop step dunk, right? Like they're going to foul him because they know maybe he's not in the best shape that he needs to be right now. And the free throw line, which we had some mishaps earlier on that we need to get better at, that's something that I think – just repetition is key, right?
Yeah. Well, Paige, you may be able to speak to it, because I think I've seen a lot of shortcomings at the free throw line just from the whole team in general. I think that's going to be an area where we have to try to focus a little bit more of our energy on, because those are free points. And I look back at my career and I always used to say, how did I miss those? You get to that point where they are free, but it's a mental war between the ears doing the free throw line and just trying to come out with 2 points.
Well, and Jacoby, I think it was after Arkansas as well, where the free throws were really a huge difference for Tennessee, and they were not successful at all at the line. Jacoby talked about how much of that is just mental. And I go to practice, and it's towards the end of practice where they have to make a free throw before they can go to, the next part of practice. So, between the turnovers and the free throws, that's huge. And I would say it comes down to the theme, I think, for Rick Barnes this season, and it's consistency.
Yeah.
And I think the poster child for that will be Jalen Carey. If he can become more consistent in practice, I don't think he's going to be coming off the bench much longer. I think he could work himself into the starting lineup.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. I mean, SEC play is here. I'm excited. And we got a really good group of games next, but we got to start with Florida.
Yeah, we sure do. All right, Chris, we appreciate you
Of course.
joining us
I
on
have
the
a dog.
broadcast, talking
Good to
about
see
your
you. Yes, sir, buddy.
playing days. All right, when we come back, we'll head over to our squeeze and who has the most pressure heading into this game against the Florida Gators. We'll be right back.
Here we are back at Nick and Jay's Cafe, Thursday afternoon. I got a Reuben here with sweet potato fries. Got a nice cheeseburger with no Pepsi. Got a club sandwich with cabbage, tuna salad melt. I got a meatloaf with somebody loves green peas. Come down and see us here at Nick and Jay's Cafe, 1526 Lovell Road. Love to have you, love to see you.
Welcome to Live Ball with Paige Dower, presented by Harper Volkswagen.
Okay.
All right, welcome back into Live Ball. Ron Mayman and Paige Dower here. We just had Chris Brown on the segment talking keys to the game, and now we're getting to our squeeze segment, which we launched with VFL Todd Kelly Jr. during the football season, and it was just so fun getting to look at the game from maybe a different perspective than just the keys, but who has the pressure in this matchup, like who has to rise to the occasion. And I would honestly maybe start with JP Estrella. I mean, Rick Barnes is really challenging him to be more consistent, as we mentioned, the theme of the season, especially on defense, to get a couple more of those rebounds, not give up so many freebies near the rim, because he cleans up a lot on the offensive side. That just for some reason, since he's been banged up in the early part of the season, he's not been able to refine that groove. You obviously go to some of these games. You were there at the Texas game. What are you noticing maybe is lacking in that aspect of his game?
Well, sometimes, when you're nursing an injury or you just don't feel like quite yourself yet, you don't do the things that you normally do, right? You start to put up a mental block, and sometimes you may second guess yourself. And I think a lot of it may be some of that, but then again, it may be some of the reps that he's not getting, just by not probably practicing as much as he would like to. And then he's probably just playing more game time because, when you're nursing an injury, you don't practice as much. Trust me, I know. And you just go out there and play the game. And so sometimes when you miss those reps, things just don't look or feel as smooth.
Yeah, after the first couple of games of the season, it's the knee and then it's the ankle, and he's back to doing isolated work during practice, which he did all last season when he was out for the year with the foot injury. So maybe some of that came back, and then it's just finding your groove again. But against a Florida team who's also led by their big men, by their front court, JP Estrella showing up, I think will go a very long way for Tennessee to get a win on the road and erase the recent memory of that horrible loss the last time they were there, which was 73-43 loss for Tennessee.
Yeah. That was a heartbreaking loss. I still remember just watching that game, and I just there was a lid on the rim. There was something going on in that gym that we did not like, and it did not like us at all. So I'm glad we got that behind us, and we're going to able to, put the impression of a dominant win tomorrow at noon.
What would you say is your squeeze to this game?
Wow, I have a few,
Okay.
but I will stick with one, and I'll keep it brief. I would love to see Nate Amit really have a breakthrough performance. I know he's been, kind of up and down throughout the season, but I would really love to see him gain his confidence and get his footing as far as college basketball goes, and really just start to be a dominant presence. Really not trying to be something that he's not, but more of what he's been known to be. And I'm extra excited to see him really try to put that best foot forward tomorrow.
Do you think that's still necessary, that he drives to the rim, that he tries to draw the early contact, maybe gets the foul, or do you think he maybe needs to step back a little bit and get, maybe more perimeter looks?
I think it could be a combination of really just trying to find his spots in Rick Barnes' offense, and then obviously just believing in his God-given ability that got him here, and really just leaning into his reps, his work ethic that he's, been shown to have. And I think at some level he'll find the breakthrough, but I want to see the tenacity, not only offensively but defensively, getting after it, really, creating extra possessions, deflections, getting on the rim, pushing the ball in the open court, finding the open man, and really trying to be a dominant presence throughout the offense that we can actually depend on.
What is that transition like from high school to being, you know, a star on your college
Yeah.
basketball team, which is exactly what Nate Amnett is going through, where you are being game planned for in a way you never had before, and you're the #1 guy in all the scouting reports. What is it like going through that transition of having just so much attention on you in every aspect of your game?
Yeah, I don't really think it's the attention. The attention really doesn't change. I mean, because in high school, the attention has always been there. The lights have
Right.
always been big. The lights are just brighter, and the players are just better. And so, at some level, you have to maybe adjust to the pace and maybe the physicality. But outside of that, the game is the game. Basketball is a little bit different than football, so you don't really have to be, brute strength to make it. I think you have to have unwavering confidence, and you have to have the work ethic to be able to get here from high school and then be able to excel from that point on.
All right, well, before we let you go, who are you taking in this game? Do you have a final score prediction? I know it might be a shocker who he's leaning towards.
Yeah, I really don't do final score predictions because I really
Okay.
don't know. I would be hopeful that we can just go in there, like I said, set the tone and walk out of there with a convincing win. That would be really awesome. But obviously, I think however the game goes, we're going to squeak it out. And I'll leave it at that.
All right.
Yeah, I'll leave it at that.
I appreciate you joining us here on the
Yeah.
first show. It's going to be so great having you this season. And, you're obviously doing much more than being a former Tennessee
Yes.
basketball player. What are you up to now? Where can people find you?
Well, obviously, I'm here located in the Knoxville area, operating the financial industry, doing a lot of planning with not only small business owners but families and individuals in the NIL space. It's been really impactful experience and looking to do more connections.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, and we'll see you next Friday.
Yes, see you next Friday.
Alrighty, sounds good. We'll be right back, and we'll hear from VFL John Fulkerson and his ideas and keys to the game when we come back.
360. When you're in the mirror, do you know what you see? When you're in the mirror, you're just looking at me. I'm everywhere, I'm so Julia. When you're in the party, but not me. 666 with a Princess Street.
VFL Chris Brown. Experience the VW brand proudly being produced in the great state of Tennessee. Harper Volkswagen is a proud partner of Tennessee Athletics. Go Vols!
Welcome to Live Ball with Paige Dower, presented by Harper Volkswagen.
Can you hear me? Okay, good. Sorry about that. I'm doing wonderful. How are you doing? Thanks for having me on.
Out most about this team. What are you enjoying most right now?
I think that I was just watching the show before, and one thing you guys talked about that I was already thinking about this team this year is the depth of our bigs. It was sad to see Cade Phillips go down, but I think the fact that we have five, or I guess four now, very solid bigs in our rotation. When I'm watching the games, I feel like coach is doing a great job of just like rotating them in and out. Like it's almost like two come in, two go out, and they're just kind of rotating. I think that's really been one of my favorite parts about this year's team. And then also quickly, I think that the job that Jacoby Gillespie's doing with his first year under Coach Barnes, being a point guard under him, and the way that he's playing has really impressed me as well.
You mentioned the bigs just a moment ago and the rotations that's happening in the different lineups that we're seeing. One of those guys that we're seeing a lot of recently has been Jaylen Brown, one of the freshmen here on the team. What has surprised you most about the way that he's been able to come on so quickly and be so effective within this Rick Barnes team?
I think the biggest thing for him and one of the things that I really like is that he's not playing scared. And he's playing really, really hard, and he's working hard, and you can see that as a freshman. I think that he really has nothing to lose. I think that he's done a great job just coming in there and doing exactly what he's been asked to do, and really you can see that. I can't remember what game it was, but he was not starting at this point, and he got in, and I think he had like 5 quick buckets in the first half. And it was like 5 for 5, and he wasn't really working for him. It was just kind of coming to him. And so I think that's something that just shows like, hey, if you work hard, good things will happen. So I think his ceiling is really high, so he just needs to continue what he's been doing.
Yeah, Folky, I think that's a great point on Dwayne Brown, because when we're watching this game, even against Texas and how effective he was, especially in the paint and being able to, kind of box guys out and just physical his way to the rim, I think that will be like a sneaky key to this game against Florida, is what guys like Dwayne Brown or even, Jalen Carey, first-year player in Rick Barnes' system can do for the Volunteers against the Gators.
Yes. And when you say kind of physical his way to the rim and be strong down there, I can only imagine what practice has been like with Jalen Carey going against Brown and really all the bigs going against each other. And so I think that's been very, very, very helpful for them, of basically, like I said, 4 starting bigs going at each other in practice. But I think this is probably the best bigs that we've seen all season. And maybe the best bigs that we will see all season. And so it's going to be a really big game for them. I think more importantly on the defensive side, though.
For Rick Barnes this season, we've talked about it earlier in the show, so you probably heard that part as well, but he's talked so much about consistency, and I'm wondering how you've seen, or what you maybe can take away from practice when Rick Barnes is really honing in on certain aspects of the team's game, and he is just, laser focused on that. You can look to the balloons on the scorers table and how much he's demanding out of the, post players in the front court for Tennessee. What is it like in a Rick Barnes practice when he gets laser focused on a key aspect to their game?
Well, I say consistency is probably like the epitome of Coach Barnes, and just consistency and getting better. We've had tough practices before, but the level of consistency that he himself personally brings every single day to the Tennessee basketball program, and especially to practice, it's very, very impressive for him to be doing it for so long and at his age. I think that him bringing that just rubs off on everybody else, and the level of standard that they practice with. I know that everything is such attention to detail, and that carries over into the game.
Earlier, you mentioned how many new players on the team, the number of different lineups that we're seeing out on the floor for Tennessee. Now we're hoping that some of that translates to Gainesville on Saturday, where they're starting to find their rhythm, where that consistency is finally starting to happen. How much of the production out of the front court, whether it's the young guys like Dwayne Brown or Jalen Carey, but even a returner like Felix Okpara, how important is it that they set the right tone on Saturday in Gainesville?
I think it's huge. I think coming in, obviously we knew Florida with their guards. I think they had 2 transfer guards that were really good, but they have really 3 or 4 really, really good bigs that have all been there 2 or 3 years. And so I think for them, setting that tone early, and I think it's going to be a defensive battle for them. Obviously, they're going to have to do their part on the offensive side, but I think defensively, if you can limit those guys that have produced so well this season already, Florida's bigs, I think we have a really good shot at limiting their offense and then, winning the game.
When you look at this matchup where Tennessee has, struggled to win on the road against Florida, I think they're 26 and 38 against Florida on the road. What would you say is the key to this matchup for Tennessee to get its first road win of the season in conference play?
I think it always starts on the defensive end. I think they have good bigs. I think they have good guards, and it's going to be a hostile environment. That's a big rivalry. I think that my key to the game would be to limit their bigs, especially offensive rebounding, second chance points. But I think, like I said, I was watching the show earlier, and what Jerron said of Nate Ament having a breakout game, I think that would be huge for his confidence, especially as a freshman. He's played well all season, but for him to have I guess what you would say a perfect game. That would really help out a lot too. I think just with those combined things, I think we should handle business and just do what we practice. That's what Coach Barnes says a lot. Don't try to do anything different, but just do what you practice, and I think we should be fine.
Yeah, Folky, one more thing before I let you go, because that was, you sparked my mind there. Rick Barnes has talked so much recently about having practice translate to game time, following the scouting report, and when they're calling up, certain sets on offense and a timeout, that happens on the court as well, and then maybe that allows them to get lost in the game. When do you think that happens for a team like this that's full of so many newcomers, where they can finally maybe get lost in the game and follow that scouting report so that they can, as you say, reach their ceiling here and maybe look perfect?
I've said this before, but I've heard the current players on the team say this before, is that practice is harder than the games. And that means, practice is very hard and it's very intense at Tennessee to make it harder than the game so they're prepared. I think that takes time to create that chemistry, and time is something that we do not have at this moment for starting SEC play in the third game in. So just watching film, trying to get better every day in practice. And, it is going to take time, but that's something that you've really got to grow up. And I think communication is really high. When you talk about calling a play and everybody being on the same page, especially defensively too, communication is really big, especially in these SEC arenas where the crowds are into, the student sections are into it. It's loud, you can't hear. So communication is very important when it comes to that as well.
Of course. Folky, I really appreciate your time, and I'm so looking forward to having you a part of the show as the season continues.
Thank you so much. Have a good day. Go Vols.
Awesome. All right, I'll talk to you guys next week. And then coming up after this break, we will hear from Kevin Brockway, the Florida beat reporter, and maybe some things we need to know about this Florida Gators team before Tennessee makes a trip down to Gainesville. We'll be right back.
Here we are back at Nick and Jay's Cafe, Thursday afternoon. I got a Reuben here with sweet potato fries. Got a nice cheeseburger with no Pepsi. Got a club sandwich with cabbage, tuna salad melt. I got a meatloaf with somebody loves green peas. Come down and see us here at Nick and Jay's Cafe, 1526 Lovell Road. Love to have you, love to see you.
Welcome to Live Ball with Paige Dower, presented by Harper Volkswagen.
Welcome back into Live Ball. On full disclosure, we turn our attention and turning the page to the Florida Gators to get an inside look on what this Todd Golden team looks like in 2025 and 26, as both teams right now are 1-1 in conference play. So it's another tiebreaker kind of feel as Tennessee makes a trip down to Gainesville, where they lost in their last meeting with Florida. And now we bring on Kevin Brockway, who's a Florida beat writer for the Gainesville Sun. Kevin, it is so nice to have you back. We enjoyed having you during the football season, and I'm glad you made time to be here with the basketball conversation.
Paige, it's always a pleasure. I hope you're well there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a little rainy right now, so I can't wait to get down to Gainesville, where hopefully the sun is out and we really feel like we're in the sunshine state. When we look to this matchup, there's so much that can be said for the rebounding and the paint presence and second chance efforts, because that truly was the determining factor in the last three meetings. And right now it looks like these two teams are trending in the right direction, where they have, a strong front court, where they rebound the ball pretty well and maybe even get those second chance points. What would you say is maybe an underrated factor to this Florida Gators team, who's maybe under some criticism right now, Kevin, for, having a tough loss to Missouri and, kind of struggling against Georgia right now? Where would the underlying factor be for this team that still makes them this strong competitive team?
Well, Tommy Houck is playing at a really high level. I think, he'll be in the running for SEC Player of the Year. And Alex Condon kind of came around also. So, you need to have those two guys clicking at the same time. Look, they've had problems in the backcourt. I know Tennessee has been up and down shooting too. So, yeah, kind of two teams that are mirror images of one another in terms of, strong front court play, offensive rebounding, but shaky shooting. And I think that Florida's hoping that comes around. Boogie Flan hasn't quite been as advertised. Xavier Lee, too, has had his struggles on and off, although he had a pretty good December. But I thought they got back to their identity a little in the Georgia game. They got a little grittier. They held a high-powered offensive team to 77 points, under 80 points. I think Georgia, I believe, have been averaging over 90 a game going into that game. Got out in transition and made some baskets. And I think that's going to be, certainly the key. I thought the bench came around and played a little better too in that Georgia game. They need that from them. Isaiah Brown, sophomore, coming off the bench at 9 and 6 rebounds. That gave him a nice lift. Hanlogan had 11 rebounds off the bench. Urban Clavshar hit some threes. He had 11 points. So you need that production, 1 through 8, 1 through 9. That makes things a lot easier and takes a lot of pressure. But Tommy Houck right now, 39 minutes against Missouri, the 36 minutes against Georgia. He's been a real Iron Man, and he is, taken to that spot on the wing very well and is playing at a very high level.
Yeah, and Tommy Hawk is actually somebody I wanted to ask you about, and how he and even Alex Condon have really elevated their game, and there's in another year under Todd Golden, because you can go back to the SEC title game when Tennessee and Florida met for the third time that season, and it was that pair of players that had a lot of damage against Tennessee. It's like 15 rebounds together and almost 30 points together from what they were able to do. How much better are they now in another season under Todd Golden?
Well, Houck has taken a jump. I think Condon, I wouldn't say has taken the same jump that Tommy Houck has. He's been a little more up and down, and Tommy can shoot from three. Condon really can, although he's trying to a little bit. But a guy that's really, I think, made a jump too is Ruben Chinyelu. He's been a double-double machine, and he's finishing around the rim a little better than he was in last year. The free throw shooting is still up and down. It's improved slightly, but he's a guy too. And when you have all three of those guys going at the same time across the front, you're talking about 6'10", 6'11", 6'9". That's pretty formidable up front. And I like teams, when I look back to the 2006, 2007 teams that I covered, Noah Horford and Brewer, similar thing, big front court, guys that could get second chance points, hold teams to one shot. If you can do that, it's a pretty good way to win on most nights. I know the game has changed a lot with the 3-point shot being more prevalent too, and you want to make your threes. And that was a luxury of last year's team with, Clayton Richard and Elijah Martin. Those guys could go off from three at any time. And that's what this team is really lacking, is that perimeter. It's not that they're getting bad looks. It's, they're getting wide open looks. They're just not making them.
We're joined by Kevin Brockway with the Gainesville Sun. Kevin, you covered this team closely, and I'm wondering, when we look at this matchup, which you mentioned earlier, they're kind of mirror images of each other. Does this game maybe come down to the turnover battle? Tennessee is averaging almost 12 turnovers, and the Gators are forcing almost 13 turnovers a game. Is it going to be a category like that maybe defines and determines who wins this matchup on Saturday?
Yeah, taking care of the ball is going to be really important. I think the reason why Florida let Georgia hang around in the first half was they turned the ball over 7 times in the first half. And they had a few turnovers in the second half too on some inbounds plays late, but by then the game was decided. They were up by 15 or 20. But yeah, you want to take care of the basketball, value the basketball. I think the team that does that is going to have a really good shot at winning this game. And, and I think the 3-point line will come into play too. Obviously, if one team can really go off from there, if Florida can finally figure it out and not, because Rick Barnes is going to pack it in and force them to win from outside. And Florida's seen a lot of zone defenses this year. The good news about zone defenses is it opens up a lot of offensive rebound opportunities, but the bad news is you got to make shots too, and if you don't, then you're in trouble. And I think Missouri was a bigger team, so it was a little bit of a bad matchup. But hey, Missouri went to Rupp and beat Kentucky, so maybe Missouri's not that bad. Non-conference, they lost to TCU. I believe they're 11-3. Certainly UConn, Duke, and Arizona are all top 10 teams that I think are going to be there at the end. So Florida really tested themselves in the non-conference in hopes that it's going to, come to fruition in February and March, and they're going to grow together and be in contention for an SEC title.
And one more note, Kevin, when we maybe look to the Tennessee perspective, what stands out to you most about Jacoby Gillespie, or how has Todd Golden and his team identified, where they need to stop Jacoby? Because if we go to their last game against Texas, I mean, he's scoring from all three levels, and he's really elusive when he's driving to the rim, cutting through traffic. So what kind of problem could maybe he cause for the Florida Gators to make this an interesting game down late?
Yeah, no question. I think, certainly no straight line drives is going to be the key, right? You got to get him off his path a little bit. Maybe take your chance with the outside shot more with the drives, because he's dynamic going to the basket. And I think, that's probably the first priority is to keep the penetration. And look, that's been a problem too. That's another area where Florida, when you look at it last year, the luxury they had in Martin and Clayton and Richard, not just really in the shooting, but Martin and Richard especially were really rugged perimeter defenders. And Lee and Boogie Fland are not that. I mean, Boogie can be a good defender at times. He's been a little gimpy, a little banged up, but that's another area too that Florida's going to need to continue to grow and develop to be a championship contender for the SEC in February and March.
Well, Kevin, I really appreciate your time, and I'm so happy that you were able to come back here for the basketball season. If you're going to be in Gainesville as well for the game, I really look forward to meeting you. I'll be there as well covering the Tennessee Volunteers.
Excellent. Yeah, enjoy Gainesville. Be sure to stop by Satchel's Pizza. It's a good spot.
Okay, I will add that to the list. Thankfully, it's a noon game, so there should be plenty of time to do that.
All right. Thank you, Paige.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We've talked a little bit about Jacoby Gillespie on this show today, and his circle to getting back here to Rocky Top has been something he's envisioned doing his entire basketball career. But even being from down the road in Greensville, his path to Rocky Top was not always the straight and narrow path. It took a couple of stops to get him here to Tennessee. But if we can go back to his high school playing days when he was on this AAU team with B. Mays Elite, the former Tennessee Volunteer, and Bobby Mays, that's where he started to refine his skill, and that's what set the foundation to getting Jacoby Gillespie back on Rocky Top.
Now going out in games, it feels right that I'm here.
Jacoby Gillespie always envisioned himself as a volunteer, but early in his basketball career, that vision didn't come with attention or a long list of offers. He was undersized, overlooked, and often had to prove himself before anyone else noticed.
How has that helped you grow throughout your basketball career, looking at challenges more like opportunities?
You got to look at it as an opportunity to kind of show yourself, because not many people get the chances I've gotten, so just kind of making the most of them and producing how I can.
Where would you say that mindset comes from?
That's just how I grew up, how I was raised. Just never be scared, just always attack opportunities and take advantage of them. I feel like it all started in AAU, just coming up here and proving who I am, just kind of just helped me get better each year.
You've seen Jacoby in a number of different stages throughout his playing career. What's been your favorite stage?
My favorite two stages would be definitely early on was playing in the program, but definitely now, because he's home, he's happy, he's where he's always where he dreamed of playing.
What kind of ringing endorsement is it for a guy like Jacoby Gillespie, who really relied on hard work to kind of get him to this point?
When you work hard, it pays off. You know, his opportunity that he talks a lot about in Greenville, not having the best competition, not, having the best players, but I'm going to make the sacrifice and travel an hour and 30. He could have easily said, I'm going to just be the best player out here, but he wanted more.
You can catch the full interview on our YouTube channel at Full Disclosure Pro. It was a great conversation with Jacoby, his dad Byron, and of course Bobby Mays. So certainly take time to learn a little bit more about Jacoby's story on how he got back to Rocky Top. But it's been such a great first show of our second season, talking all things Tennessee basketball. We had VFL John Maiman and VFL John Fulkerson joining the show, as well as Kevin Brockway with the Gainesville Sun. And it's always nice being here inside Harper Volkswagen. So we hope to make this a weekly occurrence, and we can count on you guys every single week. And hopefully it'll be a great season where Tennessee gets its first road win on Saturday inside SEC play. We'll have so much more coming up on that game, so make sure you head over to the YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any of the conversation. I'll talk to you guys next Friday.
Welcome to Live Ball with Paige Dower, presented by Harper Volkswagen.